Hey everybody, it's me again. I've got a few hours of driving, so I thought I'd do another truck rant. Next week I'll be going down to Claremont, Florida to the HVAC School Symposium, and it's a really cool honor this year because I was asked to be on a panelist for dehumidification. So I'll be on with some other industry greats. We'll be talking and teaching about dehumidification, and I also just recently was another really cool honor, submitted an article that got made into a tech tip on HVAC School's website and app that was called How to Properly Size a Dehumidifier. But it caused a little bit of controversy or conversations about a little chart that I included in there, which was completely my making. This did not come from any other source, so you can only blame me for it. But the chart was a sizing limit chart that said, like, if you got a 2-ton unit, do not exceed a 70-pint dehumidifier. 3-ton unit, 98 pint, so on and so forth. And it caused a little bit of controversy because a few people were like, well, I have exceeded that with no problems, and I get it, so have I. But there is a huge need for us to know the numbers. And if you don't know the numbers and you don't know when to deviate from that rule of thumb, then go back to that rule of thumb because it'll keep you safe. And the reason why we talk about the need to limit the size of a dehumidifier for the air conditioning unit is because dehumidifiers put out hot air. And that hot air, when you're using a dehumidifier parallel with your air conditioning coil, it will dump that hot air into the supply air stream, mix with it, and then the air that comes out is going to be a mixture between the two temperatures. It also adds sensible load to your system. And so that sensible load has to be accounted for. Well, one argument is that we are only really wanting the dehumidifier to run during shoulder seasons when the sensible load is lower, so there really should be no need for us to upsize an air conditioning unit to account for that sensible load. And I agree, we should never be upsizing the air conditioning unit. But we cannot 100% say that every single job that we do, the dehumidifier will only run during shoulder seasons, during low sensible load periods. Let me throw a scenario at you. You install a dehumidifier, you quote a dehumidifier, you also quote duct sealing, envelope, tightening, the whole 9 yards. They only approve the dehumidifier. That's all they can afford. Maybe that's all they want. And they haven't really bought into weatherization yet. And so they want you to put in a dehumidifier. But your ducts are in an attic. They leak. You're controlling that dehumidifier with a Haven, just like I've always told you to do. And that Haven is picking up humid air in the return. Do you think it's going to run the dehumidifier on a hot, humid day and not just on a shoulder season? Absolutely. And that dehumidifier is going to be adding heat to the space. Your air conditioning unit better be sized to handle it. Let me throw another scenario at you. Maybe you don't have any duct leakage problems. Maybe you've got a nice tight envelope, tight ducts, all that good stuff. But you are installing a variable speed inverter driven unit with very poor latent load or latent capacity. Mitsubishi units are up there in the 0.9, 0.95, close to 1.0 sensible heat factor, which means that they do not remove hardly any moisture. Do you think that on a hot, humid day, your dehumidifier is going to have to run? Yeah, because there's nothing else that's going to be removing the moisture out of the house. So in those cases, you've got to know your load. In those cases, you've got to recognize that your dehumidifier will be running congruently with the air conditioning unit. And yes, you absolutely need to add that sensible load to the equation. But there are other times when you may not have to do that. Maybe your air conditioning unit has a lot of excess latent capacity, and you are very confident that a hot, humid day, your unit is going to be able to handle 100% of the latent load, no problem. That's what we want. Then fine. Don't size your dehumidifier, don't add that sensible load to your load calculation. But if you're not sure, then you may want to add that, and you may want to factor that in. You also may want to limit how much your dehumidifier runs on a really hot day. Maybe instead of setting it down to 50% set point, you set it to like 58%. You tell your customer, hey, this dehumidifier is not going to always keep the set point. It's going to stray away from it for a little bit, then it's going to come back. Set your expectations. Don't oversize a dehumidifier because your envelope sucks. You tell them, look, this is the biggest dehumidifier that I can put for your system, and it may not do the job by itself, because I also quoted you duct sealing and other envelope improvements. And so we're going to wait and see. But if you still have humidity problems after we put this dehumidifier in, I am going to refer you back to the other parts of my estimate where I told you that we also need to do some envelope improvements. And that will be the answer. The answer will not be put a bigger dehumidifier in there. It's going to be, let's solve the problem at its source. So again, there's a lot of factors that go into that. I'm not trying to confuse everybody, but I just wanted to explain the rationale why I included the scenario where the dehumidifier and the AC will run at the same time. Because at the beach where I'm at, that happens a lot. In other places, better envelopes, better built buildings, better ductwork, may not happen as much. But at the end, you've got to know your load. You've got to know the numbers. Do as accurate of a load calculation as you can. Use a blower door. Take your time. Understand what your infiltration is, what your ventilation rate is. Understand all those numbers so that when you put in a dehumidifier, you can do so with confidence. But also recognize that there may be times when there is just way too much moisture for your dehumidifier to handle instantaneously. But over time, it'll catch back up. And you can build that kind of language into your contracts. Protect yourself as a contractor. Hope I didn't confuse everybody. I'm sorry if I did by the article, not including more information by that chart. The information that I was talking about should have been like little footnotes in the chart, but it wasn't. It was sprinkled throughout the article, but I think a lot of people just looked at the chart and they just said, hey, what do you mean you can't put in a 98 Pine 2-ton? I've done it before. Well, there was other exceptions to those rules throughout the article. I should have put it very clear right there at the bottom of the chart. So bad writing on my part. Check out the article though. I like to think I did a good job on it, but just read the whole article before you look at the chart, and let me know what you think. Thanks for watching, listening. Be safe out there, and we'll talk next time.